Just give me 1 second.
Yeah. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can. Also, this session is going to be interactive, so please do ask questions, and please do kind of stop him if there are any doubts.
Yes, definitely. So let's not keep this a monotonic session where just I keep on speaking. So I would like to hear from all of you. So whenever you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me, ask, and let's have a discussion rather than just a presentation. All right. Okay, so these are the topics that I have identified for the technical session. And since all of you are planning to participate in FTC, this technical session is specifically targeted towards FTC. So we'll begin by a quick introduction. Then we'll talk about the game strategy, because ultimately it is the game that we need to play. The robot has to play a game and we need to win the game. So the strategy is very important. Then we'll move on to the robot design and how do we build the bot, how do we program the bot. And finally, we'll take a look at some technical awards that are given out in FTC and how do we prepare for those awards? What are the criteria that are used in order to judge for those awards, and how can a team prepare for it? So we'll go over that as well. Now, all of this cannot be finished in one session today. So we will have another session sometime next week. So I believe it will be next Saturday. Yeah, same time next Saturday. Excuse me. And before the end of the session, we will have a fun knowledge game. Let's not make this a very boring session. So I have put in a small game that we'll play at the end of the session that will judge, or rather that will be based on the knowledge that you've gained in this session. So listen carefully, watch out for everything that is there on the screen, because the questions are based on that. And it will be an interactive game where you'll be able to see your performance as well as other players' performance as well. So it will be a fun game, I promise you. So we hang on till the end.
That's super exciting, Sumesh. That's really a good idea.
Yeah, because these online sessions often become monotonous and boring. So I thought let's mix some fun in it. And also at the same time understand how well are the students receiving the information. So shall we proceed, or do you want to wait for?
We have around 22 people who joined in, and I said there would be 30. So I think they would come in another 5-7 minutes, but we can proceed. I do not want to know the others to wait now.
Sure. Let's do that.
Guys, tell your batchmates and other friends who are not in, because this would be very interactive and very interesting, because it kind of lays the foundation of your FTC, the actual challenge and the actual competition, right? Until now, what we were doing was the skill building in terms of programming and CAD, but now we want to know what exactly happens in the competition, and this is where exactly this comes in. So this is a technical session of that for that reason. So tell your friends to join in, and it'll be good to have many people come in. But Sumesh, we can start. No point waiting now.
Sure.
Thank you.
So a little bit about myself. My name is Sumesh Jaiswal, and I've been doing robotics since a long time. So I've been, like Meenal said, I've been mentoring multiple FTC teams, and I have also mentored a FIRST Global team. So FIRST Global is something that started recently. It was started by FIRST, and it is an Olympics of robotics. And besides this, I've also been on the judging panel of many robotics competitions. I'm also into promoting STEM education. And last year, I specifically took up a project for teaching robotics to the blind students and get them to participate in FTC as well. On the personal front, I am a mechanical engineer from IIT Kanpur. I do a lot of hobby electronics. And I have been doing robotics since my school days. So in those days, we did not have the kind of opportunities that you guys have right now. There are so many ways by which you can participate in robotics. We didn't have it in those days. So I've always been yearning for that. On the professional front, I work with Symantec Software. So if you've heard of Norton Antivirus, that's the same company. I work with antivirus technologies. Now, I would like to hear about all of you, all the students that are present here, but that I think will take a lot of time. So in the interest of time, what I've done is I have come up with a few questions that will allow me to understand the level of knowledge of all the students here. And based on that, then I can tailor my subsequent slides accordingly and then focus on certain areas and quickly go over the rest of the areas. I'll bring up those questions. So my first question to all of you is, are you familiar with FTC and other FIRST programs like FLL and FRC and so on? You can answer by raising your hand. So there must be a option to raise your hand. Unfortunately, I can't see that option on my screen anywhere. Minal, do you know how do you raise hands here?
So yeah, basically, I don't know whether that's Vayun. Can you enable it for everybody?
Yes.
There in your toolbar over there where you can mute yourself, on the same bar there's a raise hand feature.
Yes, I see Rishi raising his hand. Okay, that's good.
So Sumesh, we had conducted an orientation for each one of them for FIRST programs.
Okay.
They've also done CAD and programming with us. So we've been having this thing where we've taken them through 25 to 30 hours of CAD and 25 to 30 hours of programming as per their interests. Some have done both. So to that extent, they would be familiar with the FTC and FIRST programs, but they wouldn't have participated in robotics competitions.
Okay, so I think Minal, you are the person to give me these answers.
So they haven't built robots as I mean the large majority wouldn't have built robots and wouldn't have used Arduino. I do not know about block programming, but yeah, but they have done programming now on Java itself. So I mean, like
okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I think that gives me a good idea of the mix that we have today. No problem. So let's proceed. So the first topic we have today is that of game strategy. So what is game strategy? So game strategy consists of many things. One is, how do you actually play the game when you're on the field, you're against an opponent, how do you play the game? But the game strategy actually begins much before that. And when I say much before that, it is actually one of the first things that you do whenever you start any participation in any robotics competition. So in case of FTC, the moment the game is announced, I believe it will be announced sometime next week or maybe next weekend. And once that game is announced, they tell you the rules of the game. Then the first thing you need to do is come up with a strategy, how you'll build a robot to play that game. So there are, so FTC in India is organized by an organization called Infinity X. And what they do is they organize multiple levels of competition. And the first level is the regional competition that happens typically with 25 teams. And this happens if there are a lot of teams who register for this competition. In the last few years, we have not had this regional competition, but I'm hearing that this year they're planning to do that. Then we have national finals that we have in India, where another approximately 25 teams will participate. So these teams are selected from the regional competitions that will be organized. So typically, regionals are organized in 3 or 4 different places throughout the country. And then finally, in the national finals, 2 teams, they qualify for the World Championship that happens in the US. So that's called the FIRST Championship. This happens in 2 places. It happens in Detroit and in Houston. And FTC goes to Detroit always. And Houston, I think, is for FRC, or maybe FRC goes to both places. I'm not sure about that.
Actually, you know, the way it is, Sumesh, it's Asia. So all of Asia goes to Detroit, I think. Okay. Because actually only 1 year we went to Houston. That was an error on the first part. They say India is always mapped with Detroit. So we all go to Detroit.
All right. Okay. So this is a very exciting series of competitions that we have in FTC. Now this year, because of the COVID-19 situation, I'm not sure how much travel would be allowed. So first is planning for all kinds of travel. They're expecting all teams to travel and visit US for all these competitions and so on. I'm not sure if our country will allow that or if other countries will allow that. So let's see, we'll see how it works out. So till then, we'll have to assume that there will be a World Championship that will happen in April next year, and the winning team will definitely get to go there. The winning teams rather will get to go to there. So have you guys all looked at the last year's gameplay video? Has anyone looked at it? Just raise your hand if you looked at last year's gameplay video or any FTC gameplay video, the game when it was announced. Okay, I see no hands, so I'm assuming nobody saw that. So I'll quickly play this video. It's just a minute long, and so this video tells you about how the game is played and how it is organized.
For the 2019-2020 First Rise season, Skystone, presented by Qualcomm. A team consists of up to 2 driver operators, a coach, a human player, and a robot. The robot must be built from materials specified in the game manual and fit within an 18-inch sizing tool, but may expand after the match begins. Each match is played with 4 randomly selected teams, 2 per alliance. Each alliance is allowed only 1 human player. Your opponents for one match may be your partners for another. The game is played on a 12-foot square playing field with a foam-tiled floor and 1-foot-high walls. 8 unique navigation targets are mounted on the field walls. Separating the landing zone from the building zone is the Sky Bridge, made up of 2 Alliance-specific bridges with 14 inches of clearance and a neutral bridge 20 inches high. Red and blue depots are taped off in the loading zone corners. Red and blue building sites are taped off in the building zone corners. Outside of the field walls are the Alliance stations and human player stations. The main game element is a stone, 4 by 8 and 5 inches tall. There are 56 stones in the game. In addition, there are 4 special sky stones, with a navigation target wrapped over one side. During gameplay, stones are assembled onto Alliance-specific foundations. These are placed in the center of the building zone, but can be moved by robots during gameplay. Each team can design and build a special capstone, which may be used to score additional points. Before each match, teams place their robots on the field, touching the wall closest to their Alliance station. 24 stones are stacked next to each human player station. And 12 more stones are placed on the field, including 4 randomly located sky stones. Each team may preload 1 capstone onto their robot, or the human player may introduce it later in the game. Each match begins with a 30-second autonomous period. During this period, there are a number of ways for teams to score, using only pre-programmed instructions and sensor inputs. Repositioning a foundation to the building site will earn 10 points for the Alliance. An Alliance earns 2 points for each stone delivered to the building zone. Both the robot and stone must be completely in the building zone. A sky stone moved into the building zone earns 10 points, only if it is the first or second sky stone delivered. After that, sky stones are worth only 2 points. If a robot can park over the midfield tape, it will earn 5 points. And finally, each stone placed in the foundation earns 2 points. Following the autonomous period is the 2-minute driver-controlled period. There are a number of ways to score points. Each stone delivered completely through an Alliance's bridge earns 1 point. However, a stone delivered through the neutral bridge does not earn any points. Each stone placed on the foundation earns 1 point. The last 30 seconds of the driver-controlled period is the end game. During this time, there are also bonus. Placing a capstone on a skyscraper will earn a 5-point bonus, plus 1 point for each level of stones.
Okay, so this was last year's game Skystone. Each year the game changes, and when I say the game changes, meaning half of the rules of the game remain same and half of the rules change, and you get some new elements. For example, last year we had those yellow bricks. This year we might have some balls or cubes, or you never know what will come, but there'll be some different game elements to be played, and some rules remain the same, some rules change. The entire game happens over a 2.5 minute period. In this 2.5 minute period of the game, the first 30 seconds is called autonomous period. In autonomous, the robot is expected to move completely on its own. So there will be no human player who will be controlling the robot. So the robot will make all decisions on its own, figure out what has to be done and do those tasks. And there are specific points that are allotted during the autonomous period, and there are specific tasks that need to be done during the autonomous period. Now, after 30 seconds, the driver control period starts. So driver control period meaning the drivers, the players who are playing the game, who are controlling the robots, will pick up their joysticks and their game controllers, and then they can start controlling the robot. So that's called the driver controller controlled period. That goes on for about 90 seconds, and then after 90 seconds, there is another 30 seconds of end game. Now the difference between end game and driver control period is that the rules are different. In both the cases, the drivers will be controlling the bot, but the end game has some specific tasks that need to be done, and the points are different. So that's how this entire game plays out. And this particular aspect of the game, the duration for which the game is played and how it is broken down into these 3 segments, this remains same year after year. So this was there last year and this will be there this year as well. So does anybody have any questions until now? Feel free to interrupt and ask at any point. So moving on. So the big question is, why game strategy? So everyone I know is very eager to get hold of the robot kit and start building the robot. But then why do we need a game strategy? The reason we need a game strategy is because we cannot simply start building a robot without considering how the game is to be played. Because you need to maximize the number of points that you need to win the game. Because ultimately, how you design the robot is derived from how you come up with the game strategy. So it's the game strategy that leads to the robot design, which is why we need to the first thing that we need to do as the game is announced is to come up with a game strategy. Now this game for this year will be announced sometime in the first week of September. I think next weekend or the weekend after that. I don't remember the date. But as soon as the game,
Sumesh, it's 12th September that they're launching the.
Okay, so 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So 12th September.
Yeah.
So as soon as the game comes out, all you guys need to huddle together and you need to figure out what will be your strategy for playing the game. And once you understand how you want to play the game, then you need to start designing your robot. How do you design your robot so that you can play the game? And today what we'll do is we'll look at some examples of how do we come up with a good game strategy. And then once we understand the strategy, then we'll take a look at how do we design a robot to play that particular game. And for this example, I have taken last year's game, Skystone. This is how the game looks like. When the match begins, the match is of 2.5 minutes duration. When it begins, the robots are next to the teams that are standing there. So you see there are teams on the other side, on the far side of this picture. They are called the Blue Alliance. And then there are 2 teams that are on the near side of the picture. They are called the Red Alliance. There are 2 teams in each alliance. So 4 teams participate at the same time in a match. So there are 4 robots on the field playing the game at the same time. And a team which is your partner in this match may become your opponent in the next match. So for each match, by drawing random lots, you are partnered with some other team, and then you have to play as an alliance, as a team together. So that's how the match progresses. Like I said, the first 30 seconds of the game is autonomous period. In the autonomous period, the robot has to do all actions on its own. So you need to build the robot as well as program the robot in such a way that for the first 30 seconds, it does not require any human inputs. It is able to figure out everything that needs to be done by itself and do those tasks by itself. And while doing those tasks, the robot will have to navigate through the playfield, and it will have to figure out where the obstacles are. It will have to figure out how to avoid those obstacles and so on. So taking last year's example of Skystone, in autonomous, there are various ways by which you could win points. So the first way you could win point is to identify out of these stones that are kept here. So these yellow blocks that you see, they look like Lego blocks. There are 6 of them on the blue side and 6 of them on the red side. They're actually called stones, all the yellow of them. And 2 of those stones contain a black sticker on them that contains a picture. And they are called sky stones. So they're special stones. At the beginning of the match, they're randomly placed. They're not all, they don't have a fixed location in amongst the sequence of stones. They're randomly placed. And what the robot has to do is it has to go and identify where the sky stone is, pick up the sky stone, take it under the bridge, the blue and the red bridge that you see here, take it under the bridge and drop it into those blue and red trays that you see there. So those trays are called foundations. So that is the first task that the bot has to do, and it has to do this autonomously without any human control. And there are a lot, there are a large number of points for doing this, because this is the hardest part in the entire game. Because identifying a sky stone amongst all the other stones is not easy. Then going and picking it up, that's also not easy. then turning your bot, navigating all the way to the foundation, the tray, and placing it there. That's also not easy. And you have 30 seconds in which you have to transport 2 sky stones and as many as possible of the other yellow stones that you see. So the points are for identifying the sky stone and dropping the sky stone. That has a lot of points. Then there are points for the other stones, the other yellow stones. Then there are points for placing it successfully in the foundation, in the tray. If you have not been able to place it successfully, you still get some points. But if you put it in the tray, you get more points. Then you have to hold the tray and you have to move the tray and put and place it in a specific location. So there are points for doing that. And finally, the robot has to go and park itself under the bridge. So the bridge are those 2 parallel blue bars and the 2 parallel red bars that you see. That's the bridge. It has to go and park itself under the bridge. All this has to be done in 30 seconds. And remember, there is another bot in the blue alliance and another bot in the red alliance that can interfere while your bot is in motion. So you need to build a robot. You need to program the robot in such a way that you don't interfere with other bots and you do all your tasks. And 30 seconds is not a whole lot of a time. And if you want to really win the match, then all the winning teams, they do all these tasks and they get the maximum number of points that can be scored in autonomous. That's what those winning teams target. So that's why this autonomous is extremely important. And there is one award called the FTC Control Award that is given for the team that implements the best autonomous performance. So that is something that all teams should strive for. And if you do a good job of your autonomous of your performance, then that award is you're sure to get that award. So after this autonomous period ends after 30 seconds, then the driver control period begins. In the driver control period, the drivers, the 2 players of each team, they are able to control the robot through those game controllers. And now in the driver control period, the rules are slightly different. So here what you're expected to do is you're expected to go and pick up the remaining stones one by one. You cannot pick up more than 1 stone at a time. And you have to transport that stone and you have to place it on the blue tray or the red tray. And not just place it, you also have to stack those stones on top of each other, because the higher you stack, the more number of points that you get. So you have points for each of these. You have points for picking up the stone, for placing the stone in the foundation in the tray, for stacking the stones to whatever height you can. And believe me, after 5 or 6 stones, the entire tower becomes very wobbly and becomes very hard to keep stacking on top of it. But the higher you go, the more number of points that you get. And then when you take the stones, there are 3 bridges under which you can take the stone, and each bridge gives you a different point if you take them. So there is a blue bridge, a red bridge, and the yellow bridge. So there are points as well for those. And the most important part here is you also have another team in your alliance. So for example, the red alliance will have 2 robots and 2 teams. Now you need to collaborate with your alliance partner, because if one robot tries to do everything, obviously you'll run short of time. You'll not be able to do everything, and you need to come up with a collaboration strategy. So for example, to give an example of a collaboration strategy, what an alliance could do is one of the robot can can place itself near the stones and start picking up the stones and deliver them somewhere near the bridge. The other robot can simply pick up the stones from that location and go and stack them on the foundation. So like this, the 2 robots can divide their tasks amongst each other. So this way they will be able to do things faster, as well as they will avoid running into each other. Because the moment both robots operate in a very small space, then there is this risk of hitting each other, colliding with each other, damaging with each other, and most importantly, you lose time when you do that. So it's very important to come up with a good collaboration strategy. Now the thing is, you never know who will be your alliance partner, because alliance partners change from match to match. So you cannot identify one team and make an alliance with them before the competition itself. That you cannot do. So when you get the schedule of matches, in the schedule you'll come to know who is your alliance partner, and then immediately you have to go and you have to have a discussion with your alliance partner team, and you need to discuss with them what are the tasks that your bot will do, what are the tasks that their bot need to do, and have that arrangement and that discussion amongst yourself, so that when you play the match, everything goes flawlessly. So that collaboration strategy is extremely important. You cannot win until you have an effective collaboration strategy. So any questions until this point?
Yeah, so I had a question. So we had to program the robot like in the autonomous period and like in the other period to like prevent it from crashing into the other robots, right? Because every time it's going to. Hello?
Yes, yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just got muted. So in both the periods we have to program it like in such a way where it has to avoid colliding with the other robots because every time it's going to be a different one, right? So like we have to program it such that it won't crash into any of them, or can we
Right.
like change it before the match?
Yes, you can have multiple programs that you can choose. When you're playing a match, you can choose a different program, but you have to do it before the match starts. After the match starts, you cannot do
Okay,
anything.
so
So
before
before
the
the
match
match starts,
starts we can.
yes, yes,
Okay,
you can have
thank you.
multiple programs. For example, in one program, you can have a program that in which your bot does everything. In another program, you can have a program such that your bot does only half of the things and expect the other bot to do the other half and things like that. So you can do that.
Basically we can
Actually, the best.
decide that in the time before the match where we have to discuss with the alliance.
Exactly, exactly. Actually, the best way to strategize this is go with three assumptions. In the first scenario, what will happen is your bot is stronger than the other bot. That is the first scenario. So you need to have the program ready for that case, in which your bot will be responsible for doing most of the tasks. In the second scenario, the other bot is stronger than your bot. So you can expect that you will do only some of the things and the other bot will do most of the things. So you need to have a program ready for that scenario as well. The third scenario is where both the bots are of equal strength, in which case you need to equally divide the tasks between you. So you need to go prepared with all these three scenarios. And even in each of these scenarios, there might be various combination of tasks that you can pick up. So like you see, there are multiple tasks. It's not just one task that needs to be done. See, in autonomous, there are about 5 tasks. In driver control, there are about 4 or 5 tasks. And then in the end game, you will see that there are again 4 or 5 tasks. And each of those tasks can have separate programs, and you can have one master program in which you can decide which of those tasks you want to execute, and then you can ignore those other tasks, assuming that the alliance partner will do those tasks. So that is the kind of strategy you need to come up with.
So our game strategy should be that we should have to prepare for every like possible scenario.
Exactly, because over there you'll not get time to
Thank you.
program because the matches happen very fast. You'll not get a lot of time to do any programming over there. So you'll have to go prepared with all your programs. So programming is extremely important here in FTC. So,
Thank you.
so moving on, the third period is the end game. The end game is the last 30 seconds of the game. So here the driver continues to control the robot using their game controller, but the rules are now completely different. So in the end game, last year what the rule was, you need to take a special stone called a capstone, which will be brought to the competition by your own team. It will be a special stone that you will make. There are some rules and some constraints around the size and the weight of that stone, but you have to bring it and then you have to place this capstone on top of the stack of yellow stones that you create. On the very top of it, you have to place that. And the higher you place it, the more number of points you get. So that is the capstone that was, and this has to be done only in the end game. You cannot do it before that. Then you have points for how long your stack is going to be. And then in the end, you have to again move your tray, the foundation, from where it is located to another specified location. Now, consider this. There is a stack of stones already on that foundation, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 stones. There is a capstone on top of it, and then you're moving the entire thing. Your bot is moving the entire thing. It's very probable that your entire tower may topple. So you need to take a decision at that time in the match. The drivers will have to take a decision whether I should move it or not, because moving it gives me points, but I also run the risk of toppling my entire tower and losing some other points. And how do I move it? Do I move it slowly or do I move it fast? So all those decisions will have to be taken by the drivers at that point of time. So along with the drivers, there is another player who is allowed there with each team, and that player is called the coach. It is the job of the coach to make such decisions on the field. So during the match, if some decision needs to be taken, it is usually the coach who makes the decision because the drivers are very busy in controlling the bot. They may not have thought of everything. So the coach closely watches how the game is happening and then keeps on giving suggestions to the players, just like it happens in a football match, for instance. The coach constantly keeps on giving suggestions on what to do next. And this coach can be a player from your team, or it could even be an adult. It could even be your mentor, or it could be any adult that you can bring in. So that is allowed. So that is one good thing about FTC. You can have anyone as your coach. And finally, after doing all this, your robot has to go and park itself in the corner. If you see, there are two triangular places marked in the corners on the right hand side. Both the robots have to go and park themselves over there because there are two robots on each side. So two robots in the blue triangle and two robots in the red triangle. And there are points for that. So all these tasks need to be done in the last 30 seconds. Now for the next year's game, or rather for this year's game, the rules will all remain same, except that the game elements will change. For instance, instead of these yellow blocks, you might have balls, or you might have cubes or something else. And instead of this bridge that you have in between, you might have something else. You might have a tower, or you might have a building over there. Instead of those trays, you might have a bucket over there. Those things change, but the rest of it remains same. So that's how the game emerges every year. Okay, any more questions on the game strategy before we move on to the next topic, which is the robot design? All right. Okay, so we'll move on to.
Sorry, I just had one last question. So,
Sure.
like, all we have to everything will be given in some like manual, right, before the game or something, so we can
Yes.
prepare like that.
Yes, yes. So there are two
like,
game manuals that are published. The first game manual is already out for this year's game. If you go to the FTC website, there you'll find a link to this year's competition, and over there you'll find part 1 of the manual. Part 2 of the manual will be released on the day the game is released. So in part 1 of the manual, what they cover is they cover general rules of the game. For example, how long is the autonomous period, how long is the driver control period, and what you're allowed to do during the driver control period, what are you not allowed to do. All those rules are covered in the first part of the manual. The second part of the manual contains information specific to this year's game, and that will come on the same day as the game is announced. So that will have information on whether we have spherical balls to play with this year, or it will be some cubes, or what it will be. That will come to know in the second part of the manual. So I'll share the link to that location as well, where there are a lot of FTC resources. So all of you it'll be a good idea if all of you can go through the resources, because they not only talk about the game, but they also have a lot of information on building bots for FTC. How do you program your bots? What all control systems are available? What all parts are allowed that you can use to build a bot, and so on.
Where, Sumesh, I just missed that. Where did you say?
I'll share that location.
Okay, sure.
It's there in this presentation. I'll share it with everyone.
Okay.
In fact, I'll share a copy of this presentation also with everyone, so that everyone.
Oh, that'd be nice.
All this information.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
So guys, if you have any questions, any doubts, feel free to ask. Don't be shy, and you can ask me any kind of question, no problem. We can take whatever time is required. It's very important to have a good discussion, because otherwise we won't come to know how much you guys understood from what I'm speaking here. So to make it all worthwhile, let's ask as many questions as you have. Okay, don't be shy. At any point, feel free to ask. Okay, so we'll move on to robot design. So once you have a game strategy in mind, then automatically that game strategy leads you to a robot design. For instance, in autonomous, you want to go and identify a sky stone, which has a special black sticker in front of it, and you want to be able to pick it up. So that's the task. So let me quickly show you what we did last year, so you get an idea of how it is typically done. I'll just turn on my video here. So you see, this is, so can you all see my video? I hope you can all see. So this is the sky stone. It's quite big in size. It's about 8 inches by 4 inches by 6 inches. That's the size of this. And if you see, there is a black sticker that is pasted here on top of the stone. And the sticker has a certain picture on it. It's not just random sticker. It has a certain picture on it. And you need to be able to identify this picture so that you can be sure that you're picking up the sky stone and not anything else. And this is something that you have to do in autonomous period, where the driver is not seeing. It's only the bot that is seeing whatever is there in front of it. Now there are a variety of sensors that you could use on your bot in order to be able to identify this stone. To give an example, one is you could use a color sensor. So a color sensor typically tells you what is the color of the object in front of the sensor. So what you would do is you would mount the sensor in the front of your bot, for instance, and the bot will come and it will stop in front of the stones. So the bot knows that from the starting position, how far is my stone in front of it. So when the bot comes here and stops in front of it and the color sensor is right in front of the stone, then the color sensor can tell you, or the program, that the color in front of me is black or is it yellow. Because if it's a normal stone, the color that it will sense is yellow. But if it is a sky stone, the color that the sensor would sense is black. So that is one way of doing it. It's a very simple way of doing things, but it works. It works. So like this, you need to come up with a strategy that ultimately determines how you design your bot, what kind of sensors you use in your bot, and what kind of mechanisms you use in your bot. So that is what this allows you to do. So when we have the strategy in place, so along with the strategy, we also need to do a couple of things in order to get prepared for building the bot. One is we need to build a play field. So if you remember this picture that you see, so the play field is a 12 feet by 12 feet playing field that you see here, the square field, and that has these 1 foot high walls on the side, and it has a foam flooring. So the flooring is made of a certain grade of foam. So in order to be able to test your bot, you need to, at the very minimum, you need to make a play field. It may be an empty play field that you build in case you are not able to procure the other game elements that you see. So these game elements, if your team wants to do it, you can always procure them from the supplier. So the supplier for these game elements is AndyMark. So all these links are given on that FTC resources page. So you can go to AndyMark's website and you can order this game set for yourself. Now there are two options. You can either order the game set or you can order the game set along with the play field that you see. So the play field consists of this 12 feet by 12 feet boundary that you see on the side, as well as the flooring at the bottom. And the game elements are these blue and red trays that you see, and the bridges and the yellow blocks and all that. They are called the game elements. So you can order both of them from the AndyMark website. It takes about a month to reach India because of all the customs and so on. So make sure you order these well in advance. In fact, AndyMark has already started taking orders for this, and they will ship it on the day the game is announced. So if you're planning to buy it, I would suggest simply go ahead and place an order on andymark.com. So depending on which country it is arriving, it may arrive sooner or later. In India, it takes about 20 to 30 days because of customs. It gets stuck in customs sometimes. So if you have some contact in customs, that will speed up your process. But this game field is something that is extremely important. Now, you may not want to order the entire thing that you see here because it turns out to be quite expensive. So one option that you have is you can order only the game elements, only in this particular case, the trays and the blocks and so on. And the play field you can get constructed locally because there is nothing much in the play field. You can have a local fabricator who can fabricate it for you, and it's much cheaper that way. So that is something that's an alternative that you have. And these foam tiles that you see on the floor. So they are special foam tiles. Again, you can order them from AndyMark, or you can even order them from Amazon India. They're available there as well. Obviously, they're not available under the name AndyMark or FTC. But if anyone wants it, I can provide the links if you want to buy them directly from Amazon, which will be much faster and much cheaper. So whatever it is that you decide, I would suggest you go ahead and start procuring the stuff for the play field right away. So that's the play field. Now, if you want, you can build the playfield yourself as well. So FTC encourages actually many teams to build the playfield themselves using wood and plywood and such commonly available material. So what they've done is FTC has published a playfield build guide on their website, again on the same resources page that I'm talking about. Over there, you can go and download that guide, and if you follow that guide, you'll be able to build the entire playfield. You might need the help of a carpenter maybe, but it is doable to do the entire thing by yourself as well. And this play field is reusable year after year. So it's not something that you throw away at the end of the year. However, the game elements that you see, those yellow blocks and those bridges and so on, they keep changing year over year. So those you need to procure every year. But the play field, the 12 by 12 field and the foam tiles, they are reusable every year. So that is something that definitely it's worth investing in. The next question you need to ask is, how do you build the robot? So there are many vendors who sell these FTC robot kits. And an important question is which kit to buy, because there are about 4 or 5 different vendors and those kits have different capabilities. So we'll go over that particular decision as well. And then finally, you need to build the robot. So I was talking about the Playfield build guide. So this is the location of that page. So you can navigate to this page on the FTC website. And here you have information about everything. You have information about how to use the control systems that control the robot. How do you program the robot? How do you build the robot? A lot of video tutorials are there. How do you use CAD tools like Fusion 360 or SolidWorks in order to design your robot? A lot of information about these things is given here. So I'll share this link separately as well, and I'll share this entire presentation also, so you'll have access to this.
1 second, I had a question. So
Yeah.
this site with all the resources, I've already checked at it. So is it like the resources, do they apply to like every year the same thing, or do these resources like get updated every year?
So like I said, there are 2 parts to this game. One part remains same year over year. The other part changes every year. So the part that changes, the resources corresponding to that are refreshed every year. So that is typically captured in Game Manual Part 2. While Game Manual Part 1 covers everything else that is common every year. So that is what Game Manual Part 1 covers. And the resources that you see here about building the bot, about how to use CAD and how do you design. So these are general purpose informational articles. These are not specific to any game as such. So they won't teach you how to build a robot for a particular game like Sky Stone or Ultimate Goal. They won't teach you like that. They will teach you how to build a robot in general. All right. Any other questions? So this is how the playfield looks like in. So what you saw earlier was a CAD rendering, but this is a real picture of the playfield. So as you can see, these boundaries that are there on the sides, anyone can easily fabricate them. They're made of transparent acrylic sheets and some black colored aluminum pipes. So very easy to get them made. The game elements, you cannot make them. We have tried that in the past, believe me, but it's not possible to make them. So either you can practice with no game elements, or you can order them from HandyMark. So you have those 2 alternatives. I would suggest order them from HandyMark and have the entire game set ready for you. So this is how.
So I had a question, Sumesh. So when you say order it from HandyMarks, now assuming that September 12th are challenge releases, right?
Right.
So what should the, like, if I were to say task 1 ABC for the team, and also I would like to tell the team here that this time, while it is the challenge is still not known, what is known is that what FTC has said is that at the end of it, in whenever the competition happens, they do expect a model that you build. It will be a smallish model, I think. But what they're saying is that the principal of the school or the coordinator will take a video and we have to send the video. So in that sense, there is actually a build season that is going to be there, right?
Yes, definitely. There is a build season this year, and it's not going to be a smallish bot that we'll build. It will be a full-fledged bot that all teams have to build that follows all the rules of the game.
Okay.
So it's going to be like a full-fledged game. So what they've done is, in countries that are allowing students to gather together and build robots, they're encouraging students to do that. In countries where that is not allowed, what they're saying is you build the robots independently, or maybe 1 or 2 students get together in a home, build a robot, and set up a playfield somewhere in some common location, maybe a school or somewhere. Get only the bare minimum required people over there. For example, if your team has 3 players, the 2 drivers and 1 coach, so get those 3 people. Get 1 neutral entity like a principal of your school, for instance, who will make sure that you're not doing any foul play, and you take a video of the entire game being played by you alone, by your bot alone, and send that video to your local FTC organizer. For instance, in India, we have InfinityX who organizes FTC. So in India, we have this option of either participating in a full-blown game or we have an option of doing this video thing and sending it to the India partner. Now, which of these two we will do, that will depend ultimately on that India partner, because if they have to organize a proper competition, then they need to organize it and they need to get all the teams to one location and they need to get permission for that and all, which may not be possible. So in India, specifically for India, we may have to just do the video thing. Or if the entire COVID scenario improves, say by the end of the year, then maybe in the beginning of the year, next year, a proper competition also can be held. It again depends on the India partner.
Also, if these kids have done the CAD and the programming, then it should be a delta, right, in terms of just getting the physical part done, because you would have built your model on the CAD.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, Minal, because building a robot is an iterative process. So you need to.
No, that part I agree. Yeah, of course. Yeah, but I'm just saying that you would have done some part, so it'll help if you do it on CAD and then go on to.
Definitely. So CAD definitely will help you to come up with an initial design. So so if you look at the amount of time that you put in, typically your game strategy and CAD and all that takes about initial 25% of the time, and the remaining 75% of the time goes in actually building the robot, testing it again and again, and perfecting it, changing your mechanisms, make it work effectively. That takes up about 75% of the time.
So that 25% at least they should do it before.
Yes.
That so that was my first thing. My second question was that now if we have to actually go about building the buying the parts, then what should be the what should I say, the flow of events in that sense? So like, what should the teams look at?
Right. So in terms of flow of events, the first thing you should do is go and place an order on AndyMark for the game elements right away, if possible today itself, because they will have a backlog of orders. Because all the teams, what they do is they place their orders beforehand, even before the game is announced. So right now, nobody knows what will come, what will get shipped as part of that order. But AndyMark has announced that that particular set is available for so many dollars, and you have to just go ahead and purchase it. It will get shipped on the same day as the game is announced. Now, they won't ship it to everybody on that same day. They will ship it only to those people who have already paid up to that point, and depending on the number of kits that they have or the number of sets that they have available on that day. So if we delay this, then we will be back in that somewhere very back in that queue, and it will get time to get shipped. So I would suggest to place an order for these game elements right away.
Okay. And how much does it cost, Sumesh?
So last year it costed, I think, around $450 for the game elements.
Okay.
Shipping is expensive. Shipping is almost the same as the price of the set. So last year I remember we paid another $500 for shipping. So that makes it $950, and then customs is around 48%. So you can say around $1,400 would be your landed cost in India.
Okay. So beyond that, do we have to buy anything else?
Yes, yes. There are a lot of things to buy beyond that.
So where would that come from?
So this will get you only the game elements. And by the game elements, what I mean is those yellow blocks that you see here, the red and blue trays that you see, and the bridges that you see. This will get you only that. In addition to that, you need to build your playfield as well.
Yeah.
So for playfield, I will suggest get hold of a fabricator. So Meenal, similar to the fabricator you had for First Global.
FGC. Yeah.
So similar fabricator you'll have to get hold of. It's very easy to make. It's not hard. And the dimensions and all are given on the FTC website. What should be the height and width and all, everything is given there. And get this made. And those floor tiles that you see, you have two options for the floor tiles. One is you order from AndyMark while you're ordering your game set. But that turns out to be quite expensive. It costs around 50,000 or so to get it here, just the floor tiles. While if you order them on Amazon, it will cost you maybe 8 or 9,000 for the entire set. So if required, I can provide you the link on Amazon. So that's what we have been using here with the teams here. So my teams use the ones from Amazon only. So this will get you the playfield and the game set. Now what remains is the robot kit as well. So that also needs to be procured. So before I talk more about the robot kit, let me move on to the next slide, where I have information about the robot kit. What all options do we have? And then we can choose which ones are more suitable for the level of experience that the teams have. So before we move on, I have one more slide. This is very important. So you cannot build the robot in any way you like. There are a lot of constraints on the robot design. So there is a limit on the size of the robot. It cannot be more than 18 inches in terms of width, depth, and height. So all the 3 dimensions should be under 18 inches. And this is measured very strictly. So the organizers, what they do is before every match, they do an inspection of the bot, and they have a small rectangular box, a cubical box, whose internal dimensions are 18 by 18 by 18. And then they actually place your bot inside that. And if your bot is not fitting in that, then they don't allow you to play the match. So this is very important to adhere to this particular size limit. Similarly, there is a weight limit. So there will be a weighing scale before every match. You have to put your bot on the weighing scale, make sure it's less than 42 pounds. So during the entire build process, you need to make sure that you adhere to these 2 aspects for sure. Otherwise, you'll not be allowed to play the match. And then finally, there are strict restrictions on what parts can be used. For example, you cannot simply go and buy the most powerful motor that's available in the market and put it. You cannot, go and buy a jet engine and put it on your bot. There is a strict list of parts that can be used, and there is also a list of illegal parts that you should never use on your bot. So both the lists are available. Again, all this information is available in the game manual part 1, as well as on the FTC resources website that I showed a little while back. So now let's talk about the robot kits. So robot kits is something that you need to order again right away, because they don't get shipped from India. They'll get shipped from the US, and they'll take their own time. And the earlier that you get the kits, the better it is. So the big question is which kit to choose. So there are many kits that are available in the market. The 4 main vendors of these kits are Rev Robotics, Tetrix Robotics, GoBuilder Robotics, and Actobotics. So these are the 4 main vendors whose kits are used by most FTC teams in the world. Let's begin by Rev Robotics. So the teams that are new to FTC, the teams who are just beginning to participate, the teams who are getting introduced to robotics in general, they usually choose the Rev Robotics kit. The reason they choose the Rev Robotics kit is because it is easier to get a robot up and running using the kit. It doesn't take so much of a time than that the other kits take, and very easily it is we are able to build powerful robots. It is possible to build powerful robots using this Rev Robotics kit. So that is one option that is available to FTC teams. The second option, number 2, is Tetrix. Tetrix is a little more complex compared to Rev Robotics. The advantage of Tetrix is it gives you a little more flexibility, and it allows you to build a slightly heavier robots. Rev Robotics robots are generally lighter in weight. So that's the advantage that Tetrix gives you. Then at number 3, we have GoBuilder and Actobotics. So GoBuilder and Actobotics are made by the same company called Servocity. These are advanced robots. These are made. These kits are used by teams who generally end up in the finals of the FTC World Championship. They all usually use GoBuilder or Actobotics. But these kits are not easy to use. They're hard to use, and it is advisable to have a few years of robot building experience before you start using GoBuilder or Actobotics. And number 4 is custom. So basically what this means is you don't buy any kit. Everything you build yourself, including the chassis, including the wheelbase, everything you build yourself, except for certain things that you need to anyways buy, for example, the wheels and the motors. But besides that, everything else is custom built. The entire physical structure is custom built. Now, this is done only by very few teams in the world. And this is done by teams that have access to CNC machines, and they have access to actual engineers who can build stuff for them and give it to them. So it's typically done by those teams. Not very popular option, but yes, there are some teams that do that as well. So I'll show you some pictures of each of these 4 options, and then we can get on to how to decide which kit to procure. So this is a wheelbase that has been made using a Rev Robotics kit. Now this Rev Robotics kit has primarily one structural element using which the entire robot is built, and that is called an aluminum extrusion. So these long bars that you see, they are made of aluminum, and they're called aluminum extrusions. They are 15 millimeters by 15 millimeters in size, and the length can be anything. There is no restriction on length of the bars, but the entire bot should be within a certain size. So these construction elements come with the Rev Robotics kit. And along with that, you also get some wheels. For instance, you see 4 wheels here. You see 2 wheels in the back. They're called traction wheels. You see 2 different wheels in the front. They're called omni wheels. They are that black and white zebra kind of a pattern. So we'll get into the details of these in the subsequent slides. And then you have these motors. Again, they all come from Rev Robotics, and you have these chains and sprockets. They all come with the kit. So this is the kit that is typically used by teams that are starting into robotics. So this is that. This is another example of a complex robot that has been built using the Rev Robotics kit. So this is actually a first global robot. And even though this robotic kit is meant for beginners, but you can build really complex kits with this. And the robots that are built using this are very fast because it's a very lightweight kit. So this is Rev Robotics. The second option was Tetrix Robotics. So if you see here, the structural elements that you see here in Tetrix, they're different from Rev. So here you don't see those aluminum extrusions. So in place of that, what you see is you see those U cross-section channels that are used here. So for example, there is a channel running from this front wheel in the front all the way to the back. So this is called a U channel. So this is what comes with this kit. And then it also comes with wheels and motors and gears. So you see there are a lot of gears also being used here. And it comes with motors and everything. So this is the Tetrix kit. Now you can make pretty advanced robots with the Tetrix kit as well. This is another example of a robot using a Tetrix kit. Sorry about that. I got an urgent call and I had to take that. I could not avoid it. So sorry, I had to go on mute. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had a doubt.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Using what program is this? I mean, using what is this program? Is it programmed by Arduino only? Arduino Uno?
No, it is not programmed through Arduino Uno. So there is a different control system that is used here. It's not based on Arduino, nor is it based on something like Raspberry Pi. So it's a custom controller that you need to procure. It comes with the kit. And we'll talk about that later. So when we get into the control systems, we'll talk more in detail about it. But it's not Arduino based.
No, but what is the language then?
The language, they have multiple languages. You can use Java or you can even use block programming. So we have two options over there. So this is the reason why all of you went through the Java workshop, so that you become familiar with how to program this. So this is the GoBuilder and the Actobotics kit. So you'll see a clear difference between this kit and the kits that you saw previously. For example, the wheels are different. So these are called Mecanum wheels. We'll get into Mecanum wheels later when we talk about the wheels. And here also the construction elements are different from Rev Robotics and Tetrix. So this kind of a kit is usually used by advanced teams who are put in a few years before they move on to this kit. It's harder to use compared to the other two kits. It's also heavier. The robot that you build is much heavier, but it gives you more flexibility in the sense that you'll be able to lift heavier loads and things like that. This is another picture of a complex robot built using the GoBuilder kit. And finally, these are custom robot parts. So here there is no one particular kit that has been used. So the team that built this robot, they used a combination of Tetrix channels and custom parts that they made using CNC machines, and then they built this entire robot using that. So this is how it looks. You can see that it's a very complex and heavy looking robot with all custom parts. So there are these four options. So now the big question is, which of these kits to procure? So if you ask me, I would recommend either you go for the Rev Robotics kit or for the Tetrix kit. And if you have to choose between the two, I would again suggest Rev Robotics, because with Rev Robotics, you'll be able to build a robot much faster than you'll be able to build with Tetrix. And you'll be able to try out things much faster. So that's the advantage of Rev Robotics. And just because it is recommended for new teams doesn't mean that you cannot build complex robots with it. So there are teams that have reached the World Championship using the Rev Robotics kit. So there's no connection between which kit you use and how well you do in the matches. There is no connection between the two. This kit is specifically targeted towards how easy or difficult it is for you to build the robot. So in terms of recommendation, I would recommend the Rev Robotics kit. One advantage of the Rev Robotics kit is for teams in India, we do have a vendor in India who sells Rev Robotics kits. So you get them much faster. So you'll get them in maybe 4 or 5 days time from that vendor. That's a big advantage of Rev Robotics. And this vendor is the same organization that conducts FTC in India. So Infinity X, that's the vendor. So every year what they do is they order lots of kits and then they supply those kits to all the Indian teams that participate in FTC. For that purpose, they procure these kits and they have these kits available with them. So that's another reason why I would recommend Rev Robotics, at least for Indian teams.
So how much does it cost, you said?
So Rev Robotics kit in India costs around 1.5 lakhs, I think. That was the price last year. I don't know what will be the price this year, but it will be around that amount, 1.5 lakh. And on top of that, you might have to buy some extra stuff as well, depending on how complex bot you want to make. So in the first year, since this is the first year for all of you, I think that particular kit should be sufficient, but you might have to buy some more stuff. So you can allocate maybe 50,000 rupees more for that. So for about 2 lakhs, I think you should be able to get started.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what would be the cost of the Tetrix robotics approximately?
Tetrix, I will have to check because it's not available in India and you'll have to order it from the Tetrix website. Okay. And then there is the cost of the kit. Then there's the cost of shipping the kit. The shipping costs are typically equal to the price of the kit because it's a heavy kit. And then there is customs duty that you have to pay in Mumbai or Delhi or when it comes to India. So typically the kit ends up costing 3 to 4 times its listed price that is there on the website. So if the website says $1,000, you can assume it will cost you $3,000 to $4,000.
All right.
Yeah. So Meenal, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It does. It does.
Yeah. Okay. So Meenal, we have time till 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think we'll move on to the knowledge game. And so this will take about 15 minutes to finish. So this game is basically based on the information that I have shared with you in today's session. And it'll tell you how attentive you were. And it's a very competitive game. So we'll actually be competing against other team members that we have here. And you'll be seeing the progress of all the team members as the game progresses. So it's going to be a really exciting and interactive game. So to start this game, all you need to do is you need to go to this particular URL, www.kahoot.it. So I would suggest you do this on a separate device, separate from the one where you're viewing this presentation, because you need to view your screen as well as play this game. So if you're viewing this presentation on a laptop, then I would suggest you go to this website on your mobile phone if you have one, or your parents' phone. That's what I would suggest. But if you have only one device, it's okay to do it on one device. It's just that you'll have to keep switching between the game and between the screen, because the question will be displayed on the screen while the answers have to be given on your device. So let me start the game. And if anybody is not able to connect to the game, let me know right away.
What's the pin for the game?
Yeah, the pin is coming up on the screen. Let me try it again.
I can't see the pin. Is it?
Yeah, no, hold on. The game is not. It has not started yet. Once it starts, then you'll see the pin. Hold on. Yes. So the pin is on the screen. 7897385. You can see it. Can you all see my screen? It's on the screen. So as each one of you is joining the game, you can see your names appear on the screen. So we have 16 players till now. Okay, 17, 18, 19, 20. So Meenal, how many people do we have in all?
Today we have 27 people.
Okay.
So I
So
mean,
is anyone else joining, or
we can start. Maybe people will just observe. Let's see what happens.
yeah? Okay. So we have 19 players. Okay, we have 20. I hope nobody had any problem in joining. If someone is stuck in between, then we can wait
Should
for
we wait?
maybe.
Yeah. Do you want us to wait? Anybody who's still trying to log in? So only 4 people. So including you and me, there are 23 of us. I mean,
Okay, then I think we've reached.
start. Yeah, we should start.
Yeah, we can start now. Okay. So the way this game works is the question. So there are 10 questions. It's like a quiz. It's like a multiple choice quiz. It's like Kaun Banega Crorepati. So there will be a question on the screen, and then there will be 4 choices. You have to pick up one choice, and you have to pick the choice on your app, the device that you have with you. There you'll see those 4 choices. Those 4 choices will be available in the form of 4 colored squares over there. And you'll have to match the color of the square with the 4 options of the answers that you see on the screen. So that's how the game is. So once you, on the first question, it'll all become very clear to all of you. So let's start. So the first question is, what does FTC stand for? So there are these 4 options in front of you: red, blue, yellow, and green. You have to choose the right color.
We can't see your screen. We can only see the names of the people.
For the first question, you have 30 seconds. This is just a trial question. I hope everyone will get this right. I hope no one will get this wrong. I just put this as a trial question so that everyone becomes familiar with the game. The subsequent questions, you will get only 20 seconds for each question. This one was slightly longer. You will not get these many seconds for every question. All right. So 17 people answered, out of which 14 got it right. 3 got it wrong. So guys, it's not the first technical competition, it's the first tech challenge. Okay, all right. So let's move on to the real questions now. The real questions start now. You have 20 seconds for each question. The next question comes now. Okay, so this is the leaderboard. So we have 5 players on the leaderboard. The top 5 players are like this. So Rishi is at the top with 942 points. Now you may be wondering why the points are different if all of them got the correct answer. So it also depends on how fast you answer the question. So if you are taking more time, then you get less points. So Rishi was probably the fastest to answer this question. So guys, buck up and make sure you get all the subsequent questions right. So we move on to the next question. What was the name of the game at FTC 2020? So this was the game that already happened earlier this year. Again, a very easy question. I have mentioned this game many times, so I'm sure everyone will get it right. Okay, so 12 of you got it right, Skystone, but I see 5 still haven't got it right. So 2 people said Rover Ruckus. So Rover Ruckus was the game before Skystone, and Relic Recovery was the game even before Rover Ruckus. So those are old games. The last year's game or or the game that happened earlier this year was Skystone. Let's look at the leaderboard now. So Rishi is now down to position number 4, while Vivek has climbed up to position number 1. Okay, guys, you need to answer fast. In order to climb up, you need to answer fast. And Raj is the highest climber because he climbed up 4 places, even though he's not in the top 5. Okay, moving on to the next question. What is the maximum size of the robot permitted in an FTC competition? Okay, 11 people got it right. It is actually 18 inches by 18 inches by 18 inches. You cannot exceed this size. But I see some people selecting 42 pounds and 25 kgs as well. Well, the question was, what is the size of the robot? Pounds and kg are units of weight and not the size. So we're looking for size. And 2 people also said 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters. So it's not 50 by 50 by 50 centimeters. It is less than that. It's actually 18 by 18 by 18. So let's look at the leaderboard now. So Vivek continues to be at the top from the last question, and we see new players who have moved up. So good going, guys. Moving on to the next question. How long is the driver control period, including the end game during an FTC match? Remember, it has to include the end game. Don't forget that. Okay, looks like this was a tough question. So maximum number of people said 90 seconds. So 90 seconds is the driver control period, only the middle part of it. There is also the end game, which is also driver controlled, and you need to include that as well. So the game is divided into 3 intervals. First 30 seconds is autonomous. Next 90 seconds is driver controlled. And the last 30 seconds is end game, which is also driver controlled. So when I say driver control, including end game, you need to do 90 seconds plus 30 seconds, which is actually 120 seconds. So this is very important actually, because when the match is going on, the players are so engrossed in playing the match that they don't keep track of time, and they don't even come to know that the end game has started, for instance. So there is a big horn kept over there that sounds loudly, that tells you that the end game has started, and there is a countdown timer also on a big TV screen that starts that keeps going down. But since the players are playing the game, they don't have a chance to look at it. So here again, the role of the coach becomes important. So the coach has to keep watch of the time, and as soon as end game begins, the coach has to tell the players that the end game has begun now. Now you need to start doing the end game tasks. So this is something that I've seen new teams often have problems with this, because it's their first time at FTC. Even when it was my first time, when I took my first team there, we were very confused. We didn't even realize the end game started, and we lost a lot of points because of that. So during the practice matches that you do, you need to do a lot of practice matches while you're building the bot. You need to keep these timings in mind, and you need to play these matches, these practice matches in your play field, considering these times. So this is very important. So let's look at the leaderboard now. Vivek continues to be at the top with 3,714 points. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is one of the most important values at first? Now, this is something that we did not cover today, but I'm sure this has been covered multiple times in the previous sessions that you've had with Meenal and with other speakers. So I'm sure every one of you will get this right. Okay, so almost all of you got it right. Yes, it is gracious professionalism. This is very important. So I'm sure you must have heard what gracious professionalism is about, and it's very important to stick to it, especially when you're in the competition, when you're faced against other teams who are very strong teams. You have to still maintain your composure, and you have to still maintain your gracious professionalism, because the judges are all watching you. you may not think that anyone is watching you. You may be in your stall and you may, behave ungraciously, but the judges are watching you all the time. So you have to be gracious all the time. So this is an extremely important value that needs to be driven into all the FTC teams time and again, because this is that important. So for winning awards, this is extremely important. So let's look at the leaderboard now. So Vivek continues to lead with a huge margin, and Vivek has answered 5 correct questions in a row. So good going, Vivek. Moving on to the next question. How many teams from India qualify for the first World Championship each year? So I mentioned this in the beginning of the presentation. I hope all of you heard it and remembered it. Okay, the correct answer is 2. Yes, 2 teams qualify for the World Championship each year. And so earlier what used to happen was, until a few years ago, India used to send only 1 team because the number of teams that used to participate in FTC in India was very small. But since last year, the number of teams have increased and FTC has allowed us to send 2 teams from India to the World Championship. And these 2 teams are decided based on 2 different criteria. It's not like the team that came first and the team that came second will go. So the team that comes first in the matches, that definitely goes. The other team that goes is the one that wins the Inspire Award. So there is an award called the Inspire Award. I'm sure Minal would have talked about it. We will also talk about it again in one of the subsequent sessions. So the team that wins the Inspire Award is the one.
Sumit, sorry to interrupt, but we haven't covered the Inspire Award. So I'd like you to go in depth in the next session.
Sure.
Where we will have more people joining in as well. I would like each one to tell their teammates to come in, but no, we haven't. So I'll ask you to cover the next session.
Sure, yeah, definitely. I had it on my plate, so I will definitely talk about it because that's a very important award. Inspire Award is extremely important and it's a very prestigious award. And the team that wins that again gets to go to the US. They may do poorly in the matches, but if you won the Inspire Award, you get to go to the World Championship. And yeah, so that's this. So I see a lot of people got this wrong. Maybe I need to repeat this a little more often about how many teams qualified. But now I think now you would all remember. So looking at the leaderboard, Vivek continues to lead. He gave the 6th correct answer in a row, and he's close to 200 points ahead of the nearest competitors. So good going, Vivek. And Hriday, do better next time. Answer fast, and I hope you'll come to the top. Moving on to the next question. What benefits from a good game strategy? So we talked about this. If you have a good game strategy, then how does it benefit you? So think about it before you choose your answer. Okay, yes, the correct answer is all of the above. So it's not just the robot design that benefits from a good game strategy, it's also the alliance collaboration, because if you don't have a strategy, if you don't go with a prepared strategy, you'll not know what to discuss with your alliance. You'll not have your programs ready that you need to run so that you and your alliance can work together on the match and win the match. So it's extremely important, the game strategy, and yes, it benefits on all these fronts: robot design, winning more points, alliance collaboration. Let's look at the scores now. Vivek again continues to be on the top. Hriday is slowly catching up. The margin is reduced. So maybe Hriday, if you get the next 2 questions right in a short amount of time, you might come on the top and beat Vivek. Okay, so we have, I think, 3 more questions remaining. Question number 8. What is the size of FTC playfield? Be very careful before answering this question. Okay, so looks like this was a tough one for everybody. Only 3 people got it right. So the size of the FTC playfield is 12 feet by 12 feet. 12 feet, if you multiply by 12 inches, it is 144 inches by 144 inches. The maximum number of people chose number 7. I'm not quite sure why. So 120 inches is actually 10 feet. So it's important to remember this. It's 12 feet by 12 feet. And this playfield is something that you would be playing year over year. So you need to be really familiar with the playfield. Let's look at the scores now. So Vivek did not get this answer right. Rishi, I think, got it right in a very short amount of time. And Rishi is very close to Vivek with just 7 points behind him. And we have 2 more questions to go. And Hriday, you're also not far behind, but Rishi and Hriday, you can beat Vivek if you are fast enough. And Vivek, you need to be really fast and correct with your answer if you want to keep winning. All right, let's move on to the next question. So we have 2 more questions remaining. Which robot kit is most suitable for beginner teams? This is extremely easy. I think we talked about it a lot. So I'm sure everyone will get this right. Remember, the key to the question is most suitable. Okay, almost everyone got it right. Yes, it is Rev Robotics. That is the most suitable kit for beginner teams. And the reason is because you can get your robot up and running in a very short amount of time. And you can start seeing your results very soon. Let's now look at the scores. Okay, Vivek, you answered really fast, and I think you're still maintaining the lead with Rishi and Hriday close behind Vivek. And Shravani has made a good progress with 5 correct answers and is slowly catching up. So good, guys. Good job, guys. And last question that will determine the winner. Last question coming up. Which of the following is an illegal part for FTC robots? Again, very easy. Very obvious. Yes, so almost all of you got it right. Yes, it is a turbojet engine. And the person who would probably win today is the one who answered this very fast, because we had 3 people who were very close to each other. And one of them would be the winner. Let's see the leaderboard now. So on number 3, we have Hriday. Number 2, we have Vivek. And number 1, we have Rishi. So Rishi, you beat Vivek on the last question. So awesome job, guys. And we have 2 runners up as well. So all the best. And this brings us to the end of today's session. We'll have a similar session again, same time next week. And that session will also conclude with a similar knowledge game. And I look forward to having all of you there. All right.
Sumesh,
so if you have any questions, we can take those.
Any questions, guys? I don't think so. Sumesh, I just want to give a huge vote of thanks, because this was so helpful. And I'm sure everybody on the group really enjoyed the session today. I did, for sure. And there's so much to learn, which I am assuming all the rookie teams, everybody is a part of a rookie team, would have learned. And we look forward to a session next week. Guys, please call all your other teammates to join in as well, because there's a wealth of information that has been given out, and I do not want people to miss out on this, because this will kind of determine what you do as a team. So I urge all of you all to write the feedback on the groups, and if each of you can, for your own school group, sum up what was discussed for the benefit of the others, that will really help. So yeah, this is my request to each one of you. But thank you so much for today. While others leave, Sumesh, I just needed to talk to you for 2 minutes. So if you can hang on this call, we can, finish our conversation as well.
Sure. So just before everyone signs off, I just want to mention that the next session will be more technical. So today was more about strategy and robot kits and so on. We are now getting thick into design, and the next session will be more technical. So I would suggest all the team members, if they can join, it will be really useful for everyone. All right. Okay. See you guys then. So Meenal, should I call you on the phone or should I just stick around here?
You just hang on here, because it'll just, I thought it's just easier that way, if it's possible.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Do write in your comments on the individual groups.
Thank you, Miss. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Miss, where is the